All right, so Stellar Blade. I don't have enough good things to say about this game. I came in a little hesitant. So if you're like me and you're on the fence because it's like a JRPG, you don't want like a super tedious collectible grind that would take like 2 weeks. Don't be. This is not that. This is almost like the opposite of that. Like this collectible system, uh, you can get done in like a couple hours. Just because it's not like, oh, they're not just randomly hiding these things. These things are more like they're called cans. They're a lot easier to find than most other JRPGs I played, and there's an easy way to keep track of your progress. If you go to like the main hub in Zion, you can see how many of these cans you have. So, in terms of like a collectible grind, this is not going to be terribly difficult, which was great for me because I did not want that. The game itself is really fun. It's like a mix of Last of Us, Elden Ring, and Dead Space. So if you like those games, I can almost guarantee you're gonna find some fun in this one. The combat, I think, is really what sets this one apart from everything else. It's really fluid. It's a little unique. Like I haven't seen this style. Like they merge kind of multiple different ways you can kind of kill the enemy. And I think that specifically would be like the burst and beta skills. That's what kind of sets it apart from like a Souls game or like another JRPG kind of combat system, where you have like multiple like bars that tell you your beta energy and your burst energy, and these are like ultimate powerful attacks. So these would kill the enemy really easily if you just use them nonstop. But you only get to send them out of them, and they recharge with each perfect parry or perfect dodge. So I think that system kind of incentivizes you to play the game a certain way, so you're parrying more, you're dodging a lot more, and it makes combat really fun and actually pretty skillful to actually master. But once you get it down, it's perfect. This game also does require two playthroughs. But the second playthrough, if you play through on easy, you just do you all you have to do is the main quest. You actually have to avoid the side quest specifically to get the platy. It's really fast, so you basically just fly through and get what you need. And then if you don't have PS Plus, it might take a third playthrough, but I do recommend getting the PS Plus for the auto save. But yeah, let's get into the trophies, starting with bronze. All right, so starting with the bronze trophies, Kaki Curry or Karakuri. This is one of the later bosses. I think her moveset was really interesting to learn. She didn't have a lot of moves from like the earlier bosses where you have some repeating bosses here, and especially on side quests they probably just throw in like a boss that's already there, just trying to change up a couple moves maybe. But yeah, this one was one of the unique ones. She looked really cool. I showed footage. Yeah, fun to fight. Not too hard though. See, by this point, I already kind of mastered what to do with the burst and beta moves to the point where I'm basically beating all these bosses first or second try, including like the final boss. Just because I know like when to parry, when to dodge, usually when to use my beta skills. Yeah, so as you progress in the game, those get much easier and the bosses get easier. So the earlier bosses are the ones I actually had trouble with. The later bosses, not so much. Belial, yeah, one of the later bosses. This one wasn't too difficult. I think it was first or second try as well. Cool moveset though. Abyss Lavore. So this one's part of the main story. Behemoth, if I believe, I think this one's one of the earlier ones. All the ones I have footage of, I'll throw in. But yeah, none of the ones in particular I had trouble with really. Um, yeah, there's nothing specific I can go back to that. So that just shows you like the greatness of the combat system where earlier bosses, like the very first ones, I had a little trouble with. I think the most I had trouble with is coming up. I think it's Taki, because I was like in between. I think I was after the second area you would go to. You fight Taki, and then you're like, okay, that's when I started getting these moves down. But yeah, at that point, I didn't master everything, so it was still pretty hard. Camp preparation, activate the first camp. Taki, yep, defeated Taki. Yeah, this one's probably the hardest one I remember. Probably like 4 tries. Yeah, just because her health was pretty fat and she ate the beta moose pretty well. So yeah, that took a little bit. Juggernaut, another boss. Defeat Stalker, another boss. I think Stalker had two different forms, one on the side quest, one in the main quest. Both super easy to me. You just have to memorize when to perfect parry, and you'll be fine. Atlas Lavore, another main story. Perfect Blood Edge, Enhanced Blood Edge shows max. This one's going to be easily done if you do 2 playthroughs because your New Game Plus, all your stuff carries over pretty much, including collectibles and all that. So this only needs, I think it's like 15 levels for your sword to be max, and then you can go higher than that in New Game Plus. But yeah, pretty easy because you can find new weapon cores in New Game Plus and just enhance it to that. Perfect recharge tumbler. Also, same thing with this one. This one's the amount of like potions you can have. I think it's like up to 8 or 9, probably 10. Yeah, this one's also really easy. I got both of these, I think, on my main run through on like the very end. But you can easily just go because you're gonna have to do 2 playthroughs. So just go through New Game Plus, speed run the story, and you'll just get this easily without even looking or searching for the things needed for these. Yeah, I think so. Blood Edge to enhance it, weapon cores, you only get those from bosses, so you can just speedrun that easily, not even worry about it. You just enhance it to the max. Recharge Tumbler. Some of these are going to be like in chests, and then some bosses are going to drop, I think. So just be on the lookout for that if you're missing a couple. I think it's 6. I'm not even sure. I'm not going to quote that, but it might be 6. It might not be 6 of what you need for the tumblers. Perfect physical enhancement, enhance HP to its max. Yeah, this one is body core. So this one you can only find from bodies that have like the whisper on them on the ground. I got this one in New Game Plus. I only had 4 to 6 going into New Game Plus, and then I found a bunch of the same bodies in the New Game Plus, and you only need 6 of them. There's more you can get, but yeah, that's only required for the trophy. So pretty easy if you do New Game Plus. It was hard to find on my first playthrough. I pretty much looked everywhere I could. That wasn't just like backtracking every single level, and I got like 4 out of 6. So you might have to do just New Game Plus for this. Demogorgon. I think this one was one of the earlier bosses, or it might have been a later one. I'm not sure. Perfect beta energy enhancement, enhanced beta energy to its max. So this one I also had like 4 to 6 going into the end game in New Game Plus. Got this one in New Game Plus. Same thing, the bodies with the wisp. You just have to interact with them, and you need 3 for 1. So if you find 3 of those bodies, it's gonna equal 1 beta core, and you need 6 overall. So yeah, keep that in mind when you're playing. Brutes, another boss. Gigas, I remember Gigas just because this one was one I had trouble with because it was like one of the first bosses, and it's relatively difficult because you don't have enough beta moves, or your beta moves aren't upgraded enough to do real damage, so you're basically just relying on your sword. Yeah, so this one took me a couple tries, but the bosses in this game are really easy to memorize their movesets and just know when to get parries down, more so than like an Elden Ring or a Dark Souls. So that made it a little easier. And then this guy also appears in a side quest in like a more enhanced version of himself. That one is also kind of difficult just because it's early on, but you get through it. It's not too difficult. Corruptor, I think another one you see twice, if I remember correctly. Let's see, Battlefield Martial Artist, perfect dodge, 200 enemy attacks. Yeah, so this one I actually got at the very end of New Game Plus, like my second run through when I'm getting all the trophy, or I'm just speedrunning it. Just because I'm not a dodger really. I'm more of a parrier in this game, which is weird because like in Elden Ring, I'm way more of a dodger. I barely parry in that game. But I found the parrying system in this to be much better, especially since every parry you get, you enhance your beta energy, and you need that for the bigger bosses. So I just went strictly parrying pretty much. I only dodged when I really had no other choice because it was like a move you couldn't parry. So yeah, I think I had like 150 out of 200 before going into the final boss in New Game Plus. So I was like, okay, let me just find some little enemies around here and just perfect dodge all their attacks, and then boom, I got it within like 15 minutes. So not that hard. Just keep in mind, so you don't have to do a third playthrough. You need this on your second playthrough. Perfect parried 300 enemy attacks. So I did a bunch of parries anyway, so I just got kind of naturally. Defeated 50 enemies by execution. This one's when you sneak up behind them, press triangle. There's gonna be a million opportunities for you to get this one. Yeah, just make sure you're actually doing that instead of just running up to them and hitting them, because yeah, this is a trophy. Natiba Hunter defeated 100 enemies with beta skills. Another super easy one because these are like the most powerful skills in the game, so you're going to be using them a lot, and you're going to be getting them recharged with your parries. So yeah, this one you're going to probably get naturally added. Relentless Destroyer defeated 50 enemies with burst skills. This one I wasn't using burst skills as much as beta skills just because I found beta to be a bit stronger. So this one I think I had like 40 out of 50 going into the final boss in New Game Plus, and I was like, okay, let me just find some weaker enemies and just use this on them. Yeah, I got it like in 10 minutes, not too hard. Same with this one. Revenging Agent defeated 50 enemies in Taki mode. I barely even used Taki mode just because by the very end of the game or end of like New Game Plus, your main character is going to be much stronger than Taki. So you don't really need to use Taki unless you're in a really bad spot. Yeah, so I wasn't really using her at like 25 out of 50. So found weaker enemies, just used her ability. Easy. Defeated 150 enemies with range attacks. This one you have to use your gun. You use it a lot anyway in like the Dead Space type levels where you can only use a gun, no swords. So you're gonna get this one probably naturally. If not, shoot some enemies. Defeat Abaddon. This one was to do with the swords. Just learn how to parry his attacks. You'll be good. Regime Protocols, completed New Game Plus. This one's not a main game trophy needed for the Platinum, but you get this one on your second playthrough naturally, so it's on there. Learn all skills. This one's a little harder just because you have to learn the specific skills for the main game, and then if you don't do that, you have to find them in New Game Plus. Because New Game Plus skills do not count towards this. So you have to make sure it's all the main game skills you learn. And by the end of main game, I had like 60 out of, I think, 80 you need for this, like 89 or something like that. So you might have to do a little bit of grinding at the end of the game to get this. But yeah, it's not too difficult. I think after every boss, you get a certain amount of like SP points, which you use for these skills. So I think by the end of New Game Plus for me, I had enough to finish this. Just keep that in mind. You're gonna need that at some point. And then the last of the bronze, Raven defeated Raven. I love this boss fight specifically because of the music. The music in this boss fight's incredible. And I kind of saw the turn coming from Raven a little bit just because I'm like, this seems too good to be true. She's feeding us information. We're going to find her at some point. She's either going to be like mind controlled or just evil. Turns out she's evil. But yeah, this boss is pretty fun just because you don't really fight another person that's like on your same height level and not an Ichiba, like a regular kind of human that's on your squad. Like in the entire game, besides like Taki, but that barely even counts because she was a Natiba at that point. So that's the first time you really fight someone who looks like you. So fun fight, great music. The music really makes it. Make sure you have audio on when you do this fight. But yeah, next is the silver trophies. Okay, starting with Lonely Fisherman. So this one I got done as soon as I possibly could, just because I knew people were annoyed or got annoyed with this one a bit. So you have to talk to Clyde in the Great Oasis, and he gives you a fishing rod, and then you have to catch 20 different fish. The fish minigame by itself is terrible. Like, it's going to hurt your thumbs, especially once you get to the bigger fish, like any 3-star great whites. It's going to hurt to do. What you have to do to kind of mitigate that, you have to go to settings, go into accessibility, and turn on the fishing. There's like a fishing setting where it makes it so you don't have to like use the sticks to kind of focus catch it, and you can just kind of just mash the button. Make sure you have that accessibility option on, or else it's going to make it like 10 times harder if you don't have that. So I did that, and it made it a little bit easier, but it's still hard to catch the 5 stars. And the thing you need to make it easier is the 2 chips you get from Clyde himself. I think you have to buy them for like 650 fishing points or whatever. Once you buy those, the fishing becomes a little easier and more manageable. There's like 3 different spots around the map that you have to go to catch like multiple different kinds of fish. And then there's certain bait you also have to use to catch more fish than like a typical bait. There's special bait, regular bait, and they all cost a certain amount of fishing points. This took me probably like 2 or 3 hours, just because I had really bad fish RNG, and I'd catch like the same fish with the same bait over and over again, and you need 20 different ones. So that's why it took so long. I see why people get annoyed by this one, but if you get it done early, you're gonna just forget about it and enjoy the game. So right when you talk to Clyde in like the third area or the fourth area, make sure you get this done. That's the best time to do it, in my opinion. But yeah, next one is Can Collector. Collected all cans. So this one's a one collectible grind trophy besides like the nanosuit one and the record banks, but those are a records collector. Those ones are a bit easier. This one you're gonna find like a bunch of cans throughout the map. I think in my first playthrough I had like 20 out of 49. By the end or by like the point of no return I needed to be at when I started doing all these like miscellaneous ones. Yeah, I haven't even talked about it yet, but there's like a point of no return in this game. I think it's right before you go to the Great Orbital Elevator because after that point, Zion gets destroyed. You can't do anything in Zion anymore, and it gets harder to travel between areas. So at that point, I stopped and I did all these miscellaneous trophies, including the can collector. But there are definitely some cans later on that you're gonna need too. You have to keep an eye out for those, like in the end game areas. But yeah, this one's not too bad of a grind. Like I said before, there's a way in the Zion hub where you can see which ones you're missing. So if you want to use a guide, just collect them naturally on your first playthrough, get to the point of no return, and then go see where you're missing, and you can type them in by number, and it'll show you exactly where they are. It's not like they're super hidden. It's more like, oh, okay, you didn't take this fork in the road, you took this path, you took the main path, you didn't go down this little road. It's probably down there, or it's in like some chest you didn't check. Those are usually where the cans are. Yeah, this trophy I thought it'd be a lot worse than it was. There's only 49 of them, and it's the one trophy where we actually need all the collectibles. A lot of these you only need like 20 fish. There's like 29 fish, 30 nanosuits. There's more than that. Yeah, and then 200 databank entries. There's more than that in New Game Plus. So, yeah, this is the only one we can do all of them. It's not too bad. There's a good system for it. We can see where you're missing in the main hub. So don't worry about it too much. It's not as bad as any like other JRPG grinds I know that are out there. All right, next trophy. Nanosuit Collector. Acquired 30 nanosuits. So this one, by the end of the game, you should be able to buy a lot of these from the multiple vendors around Zion. I know there's a guy who gives haircuts, maybe Gwyn, I can't remember his name. And then Roxanne also gives you a bunch. And then you should find a bunch just out in the world. If you're still missing some, you probably missed the ones that are like in Wasteland or Great Oasis. Just make sure you're opening like every chest you see. And you're collecting everything that falls down from these bosses because sometimes they drop them. But yeah, you should be able to get this one, no real problem. Records Collector, I got this one naturally just by like doing all the databank entries. You're gonna find these little recordings on the ground. Just make sure you pick them up with square. This one I got pretty early on, like before I started even really gearing up for the end game. So this one shouldn't be too difficult. Just make sure you're collecting everything. You're doing the side quests, and you should be doing that anyway if you want the platinum on your main playthrough. So yeah, make sure you're doing those. Box Hunter, open 200 boxes. Again, just make sure you're opening every box you see. Make sure you're taking both paths if there's a fork in the road so you can hit the treasure chest and then go down the main path. Or if you went down the main path on accident, just retrace your steps. And you should be getting this one, not too bad. Nativa Research, got information on all the Nativas. You should be getting this one naturally. There's a couple areas, I think, in either Wasteland or Oasis that you have to get like a treasure chest, but I think most of those are going to be like by side quests or like by where the last cans are, so you should be getting this one naturally as well. There's like a certain number of Nativas you should have going into the end game. Just make sure you're at that number and you'll be all right. Meticulous Explorer, activated all camps. This one is actually interesting for me because I got to the end game, I checked my number of camps, I was like missing one, and I was like, oh my god, I have to go through the entire game again. There's only two areas in the map that have like an actual map where you can see like what you're missing and then what's on the map. The other two areas you can't open map at all, so it's like you kind of have to run through and just hopefully you get everything. So I assumed it was going to be one of those areas because I checked the map. I had everything matching up with like a complete map I found online. I'm like, okay, so I guess it has to be like a Matrix 11 or like the Eidos 7, like one of the first areas you go through. So I ran through those areas again, did not find any camps. I looked it up. It looks like I did get rid of camp in those areas, and it turns out there's one camp right next to the tetrapod and Great Oasis that I ended up missing because it's not on the map. It's right next to the tetrapod, so it just doesn't spawn in on the map, but it's there, and once you get out, you can kind of see it. I just never activated that one. So yeah, make sure you do get that one because that was the one I was missing. I know it was in an area with a map. It just didn't have the campfire itself on a map. So yeah, that one kind of sucked, but it's avoidable. Just make sure you know there's a one by the tetrapod on, I think, Great Oasis that's not on the map. Perfect Exospine, enhanced 10 exospines to their max. You should have enough resources to do this by the end game. I did at the very end of the regular playthrough, so it shouldn't be too bad. Beyond Fate completed Enya and Sue's story. This one was one of the side quests. There's like a chain of 3 side quests you have to do with these 2 characters. This girl who's like missing her limbs. You have to go find them, and then some dude who's like super in love with her and tries and do it himself. You have to go rescue him. It's a fun little side story. There's like multiple. Yeah, there's 3 quests in total for this side story, and then one or two of them, you have to wait until you get another side quest done, which is the little robot Digger. So once you get his done, you can finish this quest, and it kind of coincides with each other a bit. And then Sisterly Love completed Kaya's story. This one's like the little girl who runs Sister's Junk. Hers, you have to wait till you're at a certain point in the game. You can finish your last quest, but you can do, I think, the first 2 pretty early on. Digger, he's that little smiley face on Wasteland. You're going to see his story is not too difficult. And then he eventually moves into Zion after you finish his quest, which is interesting. And then the last of the silver trophies, Cruel Liberator, defeated 1,500 enemies. You're definitely going to get this one naturally, just playing the main game and then playing New Game Plus. So I would not worry about this one at all. And then finally, the gold trophies. Okay, so the gold trophies. So there's 3 different endings you need in this game to get the platinum. But you only really need 2 playthroughs because you can utilize a PS Plus save right before you do one of them, and then you can get both endings. So the Cost of Lost Memories. This is the one I saved for my second playthrough, because for this one you just need to mainline the main story and then make a choice at the end to accept the hand, and then this one automatically activates. For making new memories, I believe this one you have to 100%. This one's the main one I got. I think it was the first one I got. You have to 100% Lily's kind of side quest line, but you kind of do it automatically. Like if you do any side quests, if you do any of the side collectible missions, if you get any of the data banks, it all adds to Lily's 100% bar she needs. And I got to 60%. I think it's like 60-70% on the second playthrough I did without even trying to do any of that and actually like consciously avoiding it. So it's really easy to accidentally get and then get this ending. So for their second playthrough, if you're just mainlining the main story, you have to do no side things whatsoever. You just have to mainline the story to get that ending. And this one, you have to make sure, you do like a couple side quests and you'll get it, but might as well just do the 100%. So you get 100% playthrough. And then Return to Colony ending. This one, you just have to do the choice, deny the hand. And I believe that's the same ending. And then that's a platinum. Let's move on to the review section. And as for the endings themselves, I think Making New Memories is the one that makes the most sense out of all these 3 endings to be like the canon ending. I'm pretty sure that's the one that will be. Return to Colony, that's really unsatisfying. It feels like you left something on the table. And then Cost of Lost Memories, this one I feel like is the bad ending, if there is a bad ending, just because it's hard to even get this one You have to purposely just ignore all the side materials, and then yeah, Lily dies at the end, so I don't want that to be the canon ending. And then yeah, making new memories makes the most sense. I think it's the coolest kind of boss fight you get, and I'd recommend going for that one on your first playthrough. But yeah, let's get into the review. Okay, time for the ratings. So like I said, I did enjoy this game quite a bit more than I was expecting to. And the difficulty does get easier the longer the game goes on. At least it did for me. The early bosses, just because you don't have a good grasp of the controls, you don't know how to use beta skills properly, and you probably don't have them upgraded enough where you need them. And early game, you don't even have the burst skills yet, it's just the beta skills. So once you get the burst skills combined with the beta skills, and you kind of figure out, oh, okay, I should probably use them when the boss is staggered, or when the boss is doing a move I can't dodge, so I can just hit him for more points. Then the game, yeah, it gets a bit easier, but early game difficult, later game I was flying through it, even like the harder bosses. So I give this game a 6 out of 10 in terms of difficulty. And then in terms of enjoyment, the collectibles, the combat itself, just exploring the world, the story, which is kind of weird for me because I usually don't like pay attention fully to the game's story. I just want to beat it and get the platinum. That's my main drive for playing games. But like, if the story is good, yeah, I'll pay attention. And this game did grasp me. I love the whole AI god concept, and that there's no more remaining humans, everyone's an android, and the only scraps are like the Natibas. So that's really interesting to me. I ended up reading a lot of the lore behind this, and super interesting. Love how it ends as well. The only negative in terms of enjoyment for me is the repetitive fusion cell missions, where it's like you go up to a door, it's like, okay, you need this fusion cell because it's locked, and you go back, you retrace your steps, you go back down the other path, grab the fusion cell, then reopen the door, and you get to the next area. And it's like a repeat of that for a lot of these new areas, and that does get repetitive after a while. The only thing I wish they did was, yeah, change up those missions just a little bit, but the combat's fun enough where I didn't really mind it too much. So in terms of enjoyment, I give this game a 9 out of 10. And yeah, that's Stellar Blade. Love that game. And for the next game, I'm gonna do AC Shadows, and I'm gonna do it as quick as possible, so there's not like a huge 2 week gap, or at least I'm gonna try. But I am playing that already. I am loving it, so hopefully that goes well, and you guys will see that in the next video.